I invite you to stand for the reading of the Gospel from Luke, the 23rd chapter, beginning with the 32nd verse. 2 other men, both criminals, were also led out with him to be executed. When they came to the place called the Skull, they crucified him there, along with the criminals, one on his right and the other on his left. And Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." And they divided up his clothes by casting lots. And the people stood watching, and the rulers even sneered at him. They said, "He saved others. Let him save himself if he is God's Messiah, the chosen one." The soldiers also came up and mocked him. They offered him wine vinegar and said, "If you are the king of the Jews, save yourself." There was a written notice above him which read, "This is the King of the Jews." One of the criminals who hung there hurled insults at him. "Aren't you the Messiah? Save yourself and us." But the other criminal rebuked him. "Don't you fear God," he said, "since you are under the same sentence. We are punished justly, for we are getting what our deeds deserve, but this man has done nothing wrong." Then he said to Jesus, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." And Jesus answered him, "Truly, I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." The gospel of our Lord. Thanks be to God. You may be seated. Or you can stand if you want. Well, I have to share with you, last night and on the afternoon show, I learned that there is some sort of strange power that comes from wearing an apron, and especially a gaudy, multicolored one. And so I had some thought today about putting one on just in case I could borrow a little of that energy. But I left it at home, and you wouldn't want to see it. One of the joys I have each week is to be here on Wednesdays when the Spark Kids Club takes place. And we're talking, and Nicole and Sean and others are preparing out there. And someone says, "The bus is coming." And so we rush out to the doors out here. And bus driver Glenn pulls up with his bus, and the kids come off, and they're all excited. And we high-five as they come in, and they throw their bags in the cloakroom, and they take their shoes off, and they get all ready. It is just the energy, the fun, the joy, that they have. We're just so thankful to be a part of that with them, and for peace, to think that that's important to do, right? Right. The other thing is that we have a devotion time in here, and so we gather and we show a video of a Bible story and this last week I spent just a little time talking with the children, and I said, Thanksgiving is coming up, and one of the things that we do at Thanksgiving is that we count our blessings. And what is it that you are blessed with, and what is it that you are thankful for? And so they raised their hands, and some said, "Well, I'm thankful for the food that we have on our table, the food that we get to eat." And some said, "Well, I'm thankful for my mom or my dad, or mom and dad." And others said, "For our house, for our shelter, the place we live." And some said for, the Xbox and, other important items like that. And they talked about how they felt blessed. And I said to the boys and girls, I said, "Is there something else that you are blessed by? Something else that is a blessing for you?" And they thought about it a little bit. They said their church, which I thought that was pretty nice. And one of them may have said pastor, and I gave them some money. All of that. But the one thing that I brought forward to them, and I said, "Boys and girls, can you all raise your finger like this? And you folks want to try it too? Just raise your finger up. What's the one thing that is such a blessing to you that it's over all the rest?" Jesus Christ. That's right. Because what Jesus does for us, and the text for today leads us to the cross. The one thing, the most important priority, the best blessing we have is Jesus. for which when he dies on the cross for us, you see, he gives us life and life eternal. That blessing is above all the others, for which we say, thank you, God, not only at Thanksgiving, but at every time, right? And every day. Well, that's a good one for all of us to remember, not just the kids. After that, I went to visit the nursing home up at Elam and had a wonderful time with the folks at that service. And we sang some good old hymns, and then we did a little talking as well about Thanksgiving. And what I want to paint for you today is a picture of Thanksgiving, at least from my perspective. And I'm sure yours might be very similar, right? Thanksgiving is a time of gathering around a table. Although there is some inequality in this. When the Hansons gathered together, there was this large table that all of the siblings sat around, all the outlaws sat around, Grandpa and Grandma, and then the children, the cousins, were at the kids' table, which is usually some weak little card table that everything does wiggle around, which was fine for Jello, but you know. And on that table, the large table or the small table, traditional Thanksgiving anyway, turkey. Nice, hard, beautiful white breast turkey. Or Grandpa would always go for the leg, you know, with the crispy, crunchy outside on it, and oh, it's so good. And then you got the mashed potatoes and gravy too with the butter, and then you ladle that beautiful turkey gravy over the top of that. And you throw some dressing on there, you know, that's got a little bit of celery in it, some makes you hungry. Oh, and I forget the sweet potatoes with the marshmallows melted across the top. You got to do that, right? And then cranberries, of course. And the biggest argument is not between Republicans and Democrats at Thanksgiving. It's whether you have canned or whole cranberries. It's quite a controversy. If it doesn't have the little canned rings on it, it's not quite right. And then you have, of course, and this is an American tradition, started in 1955 by a woman by the name of Dorcas Riley. She was in charge of Campbell Soup's home ec division. And they said, Dorcas, could you come up with something that any family could make on Thanksgiving? And so she said, well, what do most people have in the cupboard? And they said, a can of green beans and cream of mushroom soup. And so she put together a recipe which we now know as green bean casserole. That's right. So take that home if you're ever on Jeopardy and need that answer. Dorcas Riley, 1955. What a meal, huh? But it's not just about the food, isn't it? It's about the people around that table. Those that have went before us, God bless them in their memory. And those who can't be with us because of distance. Being together as family and as friends is so important. Those relationships are so significant. Well, sometimes Thanksgiving doesn't work out. I don't know if it's your case or not. We're waiting to see. My nephew, Adam, lives up towards Monticello, Minnesota, bought a new house, just married a year ago. And Cindy, his lovely bride, is going to host Thanksgiving. This is her first Thanksgiving. This is her first turkey. And thanks to email and Facebook and texting, we find out that yesterday she bought a 23-pound turkey. That's a big turkey. And they're going to try deep frying it. First time. Sometimes things don't always work out the way you think. Would you agree? Sometimes they don't always work out. In the history of the Hanson family, there is the legendary Grandma Hanson Thanksgiving that completely was a disaster. I know, exactly. She didn't put the turkey out to thaw. So the next morning, everything else prepared, she gets up, oh, turkey. And so there it is, frozen salad. She tried thinking about microwaving it. She thought maybe if I put the iron on it, that would help. Throw it in the dryer and let it run for an hour. Well, that worked because it could be both tender and blood. But sad to say, there wasn't going to be any turkey until Grandma discovered that downstairs she had Swan's man deliver pressed turkey roll. smiled and said, "Grandma, it's delicious." And it was. A little bit of a disaster. It wasn't exactly what we had expected it to be. Well, that's not the only time. I have to say that in the Hansons, my Stephanie and I, we have an aunt that lived up in Wadena, Minnesota, Aunt Joyce and Uncle Bill, and they are Scandinavians, you see. And they fixed all the good stuff, the lefts, the kroomkakker for desserts, and blood sausage, and all the other kinds of stuff. And they worked, and they were great cooks, and they just fabulous meal. So we had church service, and then we were going to drive up on Thursday morning, and we were all set for this big meal. I've been thinking about it, you know. And all of a sudden, we wake up, and we look outside, and it had rained and frozen, and there was a half an inch of ice all over the place. They closed 94 all the way up to Wadena. We said, we got to get there. I mean, the pie alone would be worth risking death. But instead, we realized we couldn't make it, so we stayed home. And it didn't turn out as we expected it. And we wondered what to do, and so we thought, well, maybe we'll get to a restaurant. But you called every restaurant, and every restaurant was full. There was no food left. There was no place left for us. So we said, well, the grocery stores are all closed. What could we do? So we drove around. We came, and there was a Tom Thumb open. Tom Thumb. It's like a convenience store. And there was a can of sweet potatoes left on the shelf. Lonely can. Post-dated. And there was also cranberries, I think. And we went for the Hungry Man turkey dinner. But we remember that Thanksgiving. It didn't turn out as we had expected it to, you see. But would you agree that that's very true of all of life? It doesn't always turn out as you expect it to. One of the joys I get to see is parents with their newborn babies. And all the preparations for the nursery and the painting and the cribs and all those kinds of things. And having the baby, the first one especially, is all such a joy. Grandparents are excited, families are excited. And then it comes to crying all through the night. Feeding, getting up, being tired, changing diapers. You know, that cute little baby that y'all dreamed about didn't turn out exactly as you thought. And not even a teenager yet. No offense to teenagers. They're some of the finest people I know. Think about wedding couples. You know, I stand up here, I got a nice viewpoint, and the lovely couples in front of me like that. They've been thinking about getting married. Their expectations are high of what this is all going to be about. And then after the wedding, they realize, you know, there's issues. Snoring. Well, I can let you fill in the blank. We've all been there. Doesn't always turn out like we think it does, right? And some of the people who are headed towards retirement, they've put away money, they've worked hard all their life, they're waiting to, you know, get that fishing boat, get out on the lake every day and enjoy catching some delicious walleyes and just enjoying life. And then what? You know? Some heart conditions or something else happens and changes that. And it's not what you expected it to be. Well, in today's gospel reading, it's quite clear that this had not turned out as the disciples and or the Jewish people thought it was going to. Jesus had rode triumphantly into the city on a donkey, not a horse. This wasn't going to be a military takeover or pushing the Roman people out or leading the nation forward with power. But instead it was going to happen with humility and humbleness and lack of power. Today's gospel draws us to the cross of Jesus Christ. And on that cross, on either side, right and left, are criminals being there as well. And you have, first of all, the people down front are cheering at him, saying, you should save yourself, you know, and save us as well. Or take yourself down. And then the Roman soldiers, too, they threw insults up at Jesus. If you are the king of the Jews, do this. And he doesn't. And then even the man who is being crucified next to him throws insults at him. You see, when we said that Jesus is the number one blessing and priority, and we put the finger across this as the cross by which it happens, this is no small price to pay. This is everything for us, because God's great love is for you through his Son, Jesus. That changes all the rest of the things. That one blessing makes family, home, community, food, all the rest fall into place. It changes our hearts, not one of lording it over others and power, but instead it changes it to be one of humbleness and humility towards other people. Grace abounds in those who come to understand the meaning of that blessing and that promise. I pray for you, and I pray for this coming Thanksgiving, that you spend time with those that you love, that you enjoy the food around the table, but you also remember that what? Say it, put it up. Number one is Jesus Christ, who died on the cross for us, that we all might have life and life eternal. Amen? Amen. We're going to do something now. We're going to sing. Invite the band to come back up, if you would, and folks stand up and stretch.